Hello beautiful people, welcome back to my channel. Where I live, the weather has started to turn, which to me means it is officially soup season. And with that in mind, I wanted to start a series here on my channel called Soups, Stews, and Something Cozy. I'll be doing this for the month of October, where I share some cozy, warming meals that I think will help all of us make it through the fall and the winter season. If you're in need of some cozy and warming meals, this series is going to be for you. So I'm going to start this series off with two soups. The first soup is going to be a smoky split pea soup. This is my second time making it, and each time, chef's kiss. This soup is loaded with in-season vegetables, and honestly, you may have all the ingredients needed for this recipe in your kitchen already. And the second soup is a lasagna soup. You can't go wrong with lasagna soup. It's essentially just a deconstructed lasagna. It's loaded with vegetables like carrots, bell peppers, garlic, onions, mushrooms to help give the base of this soup that meaty texture that you typically find in lasagna soup. We also top it with a plant-based ricotta and basil mix that is the perfect addition to this soup. Now, both of these soups are delicious as is, and I really want you to use this video and these recipes as inspiration. You can either follow along exactly, or you can get a bit creative. So if you see an ingredient that you're not a fan of, or you have an idea that by adding a certain ingredient, it'll help take these soups to the next level for your taste buds, please do so. I always say this, but it's your kitchen, your rules. And I really want you to use this video to help you on your journey. So let's go ahead and get into this soup. I'm really excited to share these with you, and I hope you enjoy them. First up is this split pea soup, which has so many layers of flavor and a really nice smoky element to it. I was inspired to make this soup a few weeks ago after deciding to kind of cook down some of the dry legumes that I had in my pantry, and the split pea soup was calling my name. So for this soup, you're going to need split peas, dry split peas. Just be sure to give them a good wash before we cook with them. You're also going to need a yellow onion, some asparagus. Now, this isn't traditionally in split pea soup, but I had some and it's perfect in it. You're also going to need a carrot, celery, garlic, nutritional yeast, olive oil. This is just going to be used for cooking. We're going to use unsweetened coconut milk, and then you have an option to use the Better Than Bouillon no chicken base. Also going to add in liquid smoke, which is going to help give this dish that nice smoky element to it. And then for our seasonings, we're going to be using some smoked paprika, some Italian herbs, fresh bay leaves, along with garlic powder and onion powder, and then of course salt and black pepper. So we're going to start by dicing our ingredients. So first up will be half of a yellow onion. Also going to dice a carrot, some celery. I used about 2 to 3 celery ribs, and then a ton of asparagus. I actually love asparagus, so I didn't mind adding as much as I did into this recipe. We're also going to use garlic in this soup, and then of course, by the name of this soup recipe, we're going to be using split peas. Now, in the event you don't have split peas, but you really want to make a soup that's similar to this, split peas are essentially just lentils. So if you have brown lentils, green lentils, red lentils, you can make this exact same soup, and I'm pretty sure it'll still be delicious. So use what you have, use what you can find. Now for the seasoning blend that we're going to use in the soup, I used 2 teaspoons of Italian herbs, a tablespoon of nutritional yeast, a teaspoon of smoked paprika, garlic powder, onion powder. I also used 1 bay leaf, and we're just going to add salt and pepper to taste. So I started out by adding some oil to my Dutch oven, and then I added in those vegetables, so the carrots, onions, celery, and asparagus. I cooked those down for about 7 minutes because I wanted them to be tender and cook thoroughly before I added in the garlic, which I let cook for about 2 to 3 minutes just before adding in those split peas that I rinsed very well. Don't forget to rinse the split peas or lentils before you use them, okay? Next, I added in 5 cups of low sodium vegetable broth and around 1 to 2 teaspoons of the Better Than Bouillon base. The first time I made this, I used the vegetable base, and then this time I'm using the no chicken base. And I honestly don't have a preference of one over the other. So if you already have one on hand and you want to use it, be my guest. Now, because we're cooking with dried peas, this soup is going to need some time to come together, roughly about 40 minutes to an hour, which honestly is just enough time for you to do something around the house that you've been putting off. Now, I'm not in your business, but I'm in your business. But just during that time, be sure to stir the soup every now and then to make sure that the peas aren't sticking to the bottom of the Dutch oven or whatever cookware you're using. By now, the peas should be tender, and we've already added our seasonings in. The only other ingredients left to add in are the coconut milk as well as some liquid smoke. So just stir those two in and then cover the soup with a lid to let it simmer for about 10 additional minutes, or until the soup has thickened to your liking. You can honestly even just remove the lid and let it cook down even more if you prefer a more thicker, chunkier type of soup. I've been enjoying this soup topped with my tofu bacon bits, which if you want to know how to make my tofu bacon bits, I do have a video and a recipe. I'll have that linked in the description. But I added those on top of the soup along with some more of that coconut milk and then fresh parsley. This soup was so delicious. It was so good. I even wanted to share with family, which I did. I had my husband try it and he really enjoyed it. So I'm really glad that we had leftovers that we can enjoy throughout this soup season. I just popped the leftovers into these soup containers, put them in the freezer, and now whenever we either just want something comforting, cozy, warming, now we have some options in the fridge that are flavorful, packed with nutritious ingredients, and it's a meal that I already know we love. And speaking of meals that we love, I mean, who doesn't love lasagna? So when you take it and create a soup, come on. Now, there are many things that I enjoy about lasagna soup, but the fact that you can just use a variety of vegetables that are in season, vegetables that you may have in the fridge that desperately need to be cooked, feel free to throw them in here. So for my soup, I'm using produce like baby bella mushrooms, bell peppers, onion, garlic, and more carrots. For the seasonings, I use red pepper flakes, some onion powder, garlic powder, Italian herbs, and smoked paprika. And for our pantry items, I'm using ingredients like vegetable broth, crushed tomatoes, tomato paste, and lasagna sheets. And then to add even more flavor to the soup, we're going to create a ricotta blend using some dairy-free ricotta, nutritional yeast, and fresh basil. And as you can tell, we're using a lot of similar ingredients across both of these recipes, which in my opinion makes for a great budget-friendly meal prep, or even a way to just reduce food waste. Now, for the mushrooms in this recipe, I often just clean mine by brushing the dirt off instead of giving them a full-blown bath. I did learn that by cleaning the mushrooms with water, you're essentially adding even more moisture to the mushroom, while our goal is to actually cook out the moisture. And I mean, a little water won't hurt, but again, the goal is to remove the excess moisture, which will prevent them from just getting mushy while you cook them, and it'll help bring out the natural flavors while we dry cook them on the stove. So after most of the moisture was cooked out of the mushrooms, I added the diced carrots, the celery, and the onions. And I just added a bit of salt and black pepper, and I just cooked those over medium heat until they were tender and started to brown. Next, I added in the minced garlic, some vegan-friendly W sauce, Worcestershire sauce. Hopefully I said that right, because I never do. I cooked that on the stove for about 3 to 5 minutes just to help the flavors develop even more. Next, I added in the tomato paste, the crushed tomatoes, and our seasoning blend. So our red pepper flakes, the onion powder, garlic powder, Italian herbs, and smoked paprika. Now, I wanted the flavors in this mixture here to develop a bit more. So I just let these cook for about 7 minutes, and I made sure to give it a stir like every couple minutes so that it didn't stick to the bottom of the pan. And then once I felt good with the flavor and the richness of the vegetable mix, I poured in my vegetable broth as well as those broken lasagna sheets. And I used about 7 sheets in total. And I mean, you can use more or less just based off your personal preference. So after I added the broken lasagna sheets in there, I covered the soup and I just let this simmer and do its thing for about 10 minutes. Then I removed the lid and let it simmer for an additional 15 minutes. And I made the most of those 15 minutes because during that time I worked on my ricotta mixture, which I used about 1 cup of dairy-free ricotta. I used a handful, I love basil, so I used a handful of fresh basil. I used about 1 tablespoon of nutritional yeast, half a teaspoon of garlic powder, and then salt and black pepper to taste. All right, it has been 15 minutes and our soup is ready. I just topped it with some dairy-free Parmesan. And if you like an extra cheesy, creamy lasagna soup, I would recommend adding in some vegan mozzarella and either a dairy-free half and half or cashew cream. All in all, this got me about 4 servings of soup, and I just enjoyed it with a few dollops of that ricotta mixture, some more dairy-free Parmesan, and even more fresh basil, because I told you I love me some basil. This was another delicious freezer-friendly meal that is seriously going to come in handy during these cold months. I am so pumped. I'm looking forward to making a updated version of my vegan chicken and dumplings soon, which should be delicious. I hope that you enjoyed this video. I hope that you love the recipes. You can find the measurements in the description box, and be sure to let me know which of these soups you plan to try, or even let me know what soups or stews or something cozy it is that you want to see me create and share a recipe for. Next week is all about cozy brunch and breakfast recipes that I know you are going to love. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next Sunday.